Hello and welcome back to another episode of Around the Horns. We're sitting down with Coach Schloss of Texas baseball. Coach, a little bit longer weekend. Thanks to the short week last week, but how you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, sun came up on Sunday, and we had a day off. Don't get a chance to go to church much during the season because of Sunday games, but between Easter and yesterday, able to do that. So, kind of needed it after the way things went on the weekend. But we're excited for the opportunity to rebound and for everybody to just really self-assess where we are after the weekend. So this is part of the season, and frankly, it's part of our job. So it's not just to handle the good times; it's to handle the adversity too.
Yeah, I mean, just touching upon that, we've talked about all along the margins in the SEC are extremely thin, right? Games sometimes come down to one at bat or even one misplayed ball. But oftentimes you see these kind of weekends out of even the most elite teams. It's the grind of the SEC and just what you have to go through every weekend and week out, especially when the schedule lines up where you have a short week and it's a travel week. Just, you know, did you hammer home that to the team, or are you going to hammer the home to the team like, guys, like this is just one series. This is not the season. It doesn't make what you've done to this date. It doesn't break what you've done to this date. It's just let's focus and let's regroup and continue on.
Yeah, well, two things can be true at the same time. What you just said is 100% true. I mean, no one wants to have the kind of weekend we had. But at the same time, we've also put ourselves in still a good position. If you were to say, before the season started, blah, 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 you're 19-5 after 24 games, like every team in the league would sign up for that. But when you get, so that's fine. Yes, it's still true. We have, one midweek game left. We have 6 conference games. We have a lot to play for and so forth. So that's true. What about what you just asked me isn't true is there was no margin. We played horrible. There was no like one swing by us changes things. When you give up as many free bases as we did as a pitching staff and defense, the level of the competitiveness of the at-bats in the first game was beyond horrific, although the pitcher was awesome. I thought the level of competitiveness of the at-bats in the second game, while the pitcher was even more awesome, was actually better. And then the third game, yeah, I mean, we get out to a 3-0 lead, but we don't throw strikes. You give up 5 homers in a game. That's one thing. That park was definitely playing incredibly small. Some of the homers were completely legit, like Robinette's and Jalen's, and there were others that are exit velocities at 91, and in no park do those balls go out. But that's part of the game, and the pitching staff was warned about that before the weekend began. And you can give up 5 homers, you just can't walk 10 or hit all these guys. And so that's not necessarily who we've been as a whole as a pitching staff. There's certainly, all you got to do is look at the stats and see guys with as many walks as innings pitched. And the stats tell you who you are in the moment. And there's other guys that haven't been that. Ruger hasn't been that. Grubbs hasn't been that. Even Burns hasn't been that. So I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, rough weekend, move on. You have to call a spade so that you can address it. And how do you address it? You get more aggressive in the strike zone. We actually caught the ball pretty well. We had, miscommunication on a ball on Saturday in right field. I can't really think. We gave up some stolen. We only gave up 2 or 3 stolen bases, but we don't give up stolen bases. Teams don't, and we do a better job than that. But you got to give Arkansas credit. So I mean, they just outplayed us in every sense of the word. And we got to hear about it for 3 days from the Arkansas fans, which is part of being in the conference. And so now it's just, yeah, there are teams that have bad weekends, and it's all about how you respond to it. So what an opportunity we have to kind of reset and have another opening day this week.
Yeah. You talked about it, I think, with Moreland. You know, every team is likely to have a bad weekend at some point. It's just the game of baseball. It's a game of failure. You kind of, you don't want it to happen, obviously, but you also don't want it to happen later in the season because, a couple weekends from now, y'all have a bad weekend and y'all go home and you really are in Cabo, right? So
Yeah.
is it kind of good to get it out this way so that you can really just be laser focused? Not that you weren't going to be, but the last 2 weekends, the finish line is in sight, and then you still have what you want to play for there, which is that SEC title.
I mean, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely better than, 3 or 4 weeks from now. Because, and I was being facetious, I won't be in Cabo. We'll be
I
sitting
know.
here we'll be sitting here in the office doing transfer portal visits, and which, I mean, everybody wants to avoid that time and continue to play as long as you possibly can. But, yeah, man, like it's just, I think I really don't, I never sensed any entitlement at all. I haven't sensed that once on this team. Um, but I think it is certainly a good reminder that, you know, if you take your foot off the gas for a moment, which I don't think we did. I know our staff didn't. I don't think our players did mentally. I think we got punched in the mouth in the first game, and some guys responded out of character. And so we get to be back at it this week. And Florida's, and we have Lamar, who's won 37 games, I think, 30,
Yep.
37, 38 games tomorrow. And then Florida's playing as good as anybody. And you want to talk about power and power arms and power bats. I mean, they're going to be rolling in here this weekend. But Georgia was the same. A&M was the same. And so we'll be ready to play. We just need to play better.
Yeah. Speaking of pitching, you mentioned Ruger. I've watched a lot of his games, obviously, this season covering the team. It didn't seem like they were paying attention to his fastball at all. Was that something that they saw maybe beforehand during the scouting? I mean, everyone's got the video out, but was it something they were just waiting for his cutter and his splitter and the curveball, or was it, hey, we're just going to zone out his fastball because he just wasn't landing it? I mean, it looked like his fastball was running quite a bit inside for most of the game.
Yeah. I think both can be true. I think that, I mean, it's no secret how we pitch, and it's different than some schools. And it's also, I think Max has done a phenomenal job taking the people that we have on the pitching staff and giving them an opportunity to be successful in this league. If you have Gage Wood's fastball, then you can pitch with your fastball. If you don't have Gage Wood's fastball, you're going to get hammered in this conference. I watched a little bit of the A&M game yesterday, and if you're going to try and beat the best hitters with fastballs, you better have an elite fastball, or a guy like Caden Sorrell is going to hit it over the scoreboard like he did.
Yeah.
And so you better be able to pitch in unique ways. And so I think, yes, that can be true. But at the same time, people knew that. A&M knew that. Auburn knew that. So it's the execution of the pitches. It's not, I'm a firm believer, for the most part, there is no such thing as bad pitch selection. It's bad pitch execution. And in Ruger's case, I am 100% giving him a pass because of what we've asked him to do in the, I think, 12-day period. It's definitely 14.
Yeah.
To pitch 3 times in 12, 13-day period, and then to have the third one be against Arkansas, who's really good offensively, in a park that's small and was playing smaller. Yeah, I mean they definitely had a game plan, but I think if he executes pitches the way he normally does, he would have kept us in that game better. That game was as much about Zach Root as it was anything. I mean, he was phenomenal, and he's already good, and he had a great night.
Yeah, I saw a lot of Root when he was at ECU, and everyone knew he was already a special talent. And yeah, he certainly hasn't pitched that way the last couple of weeks, but against Texas, he was on fire, and it's unfortunate when you run into a buzzsaw like that. So
Yeah, I mean, I think, this isn't an elitist statement because I think there are more programs and there are other programs in the country like at Texas that kind of heighten the awareness of the other team. And Texas is definitely one. We can actually analytically prove it on this field.
yeah,
We can analytically prove it on the quality of the stuff that a so-and-so pitcher from so-and-so school, what their average stuff is, and then they come to Dishfalk or they pitch against Texas and it gets ticked up. But that's why it takes someone special to play here. And then you also have to deal with the outside people, the fans and stuff like that, it's love or hatred. So that's certainly something that is very, very real.
yeah, absolutely. Just taking a brief look ahead, y'all have 7 games, 4 of them at home. You mentioned Lamar, who's 37 and I think 18 on the season. They've had a really good season. One of Nolan Cain's best buddies, Will Davis, coming to town. But then you have Florida, who, I mean, kind of like A&M, had one of the most atrocious starts you could have to start SEC play, and they've kind of put it together. Even in some ways, kind of like Texas with the number of injuries they've had. They got Coppola back, but then they lost their shortstop. For a team like that that's going to bring power arms, Sullivan always has those, and guys that can really hit the ball. Is it kind of luck of the draw? Sometimes you get those teams at home instead of maybe some of the ballparks that play smaller. Is it, it's just what you have to face in life as the SEC?
Yeah, it's, I think that we also had to go to Arkansas.
Yeah.
And we also had to, we had Georgia here, that was somewhat helpful to have a little bit bigger ballpark. Although that weekend we pitched awesome. I just think every year it's going to be, I know it's every year's like that. When you have a 16-team league, you're going to have an unbalanced schedule. And I think a lot of this conference is, when do you catch people, right? If you play Texas A&M and this year in the first 3 or 4 weeks, you're catching a super talented team without Caden Sorrell, and they're not confident and they're down a little bit. And now you play them completely different. Same thing's true with Florida. Remains to be seen how the Longhorns handle this past weekend, right? So this is a real test for us. My first year at A&M, we won the SEC West after being preseason picked last. We missed 3 Friday night starters that year. The other team's pitchers, I remember Jonathan Cannon at Georgia being one of them. We had 3 times where the Friday night starter was out for some reason. So it's like, I don't want to say luck of the draw, but it's close. It's close to that. And but we've also gone 19-5. So winning is winning. So let's see how the season plays out. All of this stuff is just, believe me, I want to win every game, but it's just preparation for a regional. And whether we're in one, home, away, whatever, like you got to have your best players healthy. You got to have them confident. And then it just comes down to how you play on those days. And anything like this past weekend, it is certainly a reminder, like we said earlier, that your season can end like that. You can also be Ole Miss from 2 years ago and you can win a national title like that.
Yeah.
It happens fast. The NCAA tournament is about really good teams and really hot teams. And you can be a good team that plays bad, gets outplayed, like say Tennessee's epic team from 22, I think. Yeah, with Notre Dame beat them. Or you can be a hot team. You can be Coastal Carolina, you can be Ole Miss, and so you just got to play well. And that's just what it's tournament baseball, just like the college football playoff now is a tournament. The NCAA basketball thing is a tournament. So never about the best team, only about the team that plays the best.
So a lot of coaches handle that final weekend and even conference championship or conference tourneys, I should say, very, very differently. Some folks walk in there saying every year, like, hey, we have to have a win. We have to have 2 wins, right? This is required to even get in the tournament, or this is going to help set us up maybe to get a home host, or, just improve their standings a little bit. How do y'all treat or how have you historically treated the conference tournament when you've been able to walk in knowing, hey, look, we know we're in the tournament? Do you try to set it up and start aligning from a pitching standpoint, or is it just you want to keep everyone on that schedule so that everything kind of just lines up the way you like to see?
Well, it's 100. I mean, this is a question for after we play Oklahoma, but it just depends on where you are. My first year at A&M, we won the SEC West. So, I mean, you're going to be a national seed. You want to play some baseball, stay crisp, but you're not going to stress anyone. The format of the tournament then, I think we won 2 games and then lost 1, and we got eliminated, which was weird. We only lost 1 game in a double elimination tournament, but that was the format. And we were perfect. We were fine to get out of there, go home, get rest, and play through the tournament, play through the NCAA tournament. The next year, we're 14 and 16, I think, and not feeling as great about where we were. And we actually ended up playing to the championship game and lost to Vanderbilt. And we finished the season at Mississippi State and then had to go to Hoover and play to the championship. We played 9 SEC games in 11 days. And you talk about being absolutely spent. I mean, spent. We played 6 consecutive days in the SEC tournament. The blessing was we got to be sent to Stanford. So we got some time back and weather, but last year was just go and play. This year is going to be completely different because you get bye. So if you finish in the first 4, you get a double bye.
Yeah.
You don't play till Thursday or Friday. If you finish in the second 4, you get a bye. So you got to figure those 8 teams are in the NCAA tournament. But like you said, you're normally on the bubble of something, right? You're on the bubble of national seed, bubble of hosting, bubble of getting in. So I think if you finish in the first 4 of this league, you're not going to throw a game. I mean, but you're also, I've seen teams like that are in a great spot, throw their number 1 pitcher, but you don't pitch him until his day. And you maybe just give him the 45 to 50 pitches so he can kind of catch his breath going into the next week. But yeah, I mean, it's just your question's a good one. It's just we're a couple weeks away from it, and this year's tournament format changes a lot.
Yeah, the format, I really like what they did just to ensure that they're not. I mean, the league office obviously has their reasons, but not grinding down those teams, as you said, because that A&M run back in 2023, I think it was just crazy, and the number of times y'all had to play consecutive days and everything. But
well, it's actually us as head coaches, we went back and forth on a lot of different formats. Do you keep it at 12 teams? Is it double elimination? How do you protect the best teams and give them a chance to be ready for the NCAA tournament? Yet in a 16-team league, I mean, I don't look at the standings, but who's 13th right now? Somebody really good.
Yeah.
Somebody really good. And so my thing was, well, if we've ever finished 13th or 14th, I at least want a chance to play our way in. And so I think this format for the baseball is in the SEC teams is good. Is it best for the fans? Is it best for the experience? Because the experience there is it is mini Omaha, man. It is so cool. Yeah. It's so fun. The town is so great. If it's, how many people are going to travel if their team could be 1 and out. That's the scary thing for the experience of the tournament.
Yeah, no, I thought the other thing that made sense about the tournament was also factoring in the weather, because it's one thing for the experience, but then weather, you have those LSU games that start at 1 a.m. in the morning because you have to fit it in. There's no other way to do it. And so it's a challenge. Some freedom there.
Yeah, it's a challenge. That's why you've seen some people bid on the tournament, different places that have roof stadium. But Hoover's such a special place. The staff does a great job. But you definitely have those thunderstorms and the lightning stuff that slows everything down. That's part of tournament baseball. at every level.
Yeah. Earlier you talked about game one. Obviously, Zach Root was really good, but y'all just didn't have that quality at bats that you would have liked to seen. And I know y'all track that very heavily. You said game two was better. Any change in philosophy from y'all side or from Tulo saying, hey guys, this weekend we don't want to abandon what we've done, right? Y'all want to take a lot of pitches. Y'all want to handle that, but knowing you're going to get another round of power arms, do you start making those slight adjustments to say, hey, maybe you look at an earlier pitch or,
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we actually, that was actually the plan against both Root and Wood. Root especially, because he doesn't walk that many people. And our plan was to swing earlier in the count. Some guys did, some guys didn't. I mean, the game's not played with a joystick. You don't. I can't joystick it over there and press buttons. It's not MLB The Show where as you're holding a game controller. So, I think the conversation after the first game was, okay, we faced a great pitcher. You're going to face great pitching. You're going to face a great pitcher, Liam Peterson this weekend. I don't know all of Florida's pitchers yet. I just know they're always big, right-handed, and throw hard, and sometimes left-handed. And you go to Oklahoma, and you got the Witherspoon guy who might be the best pitcher in the country, and he's not walking anybody. And so, there's certainly. I mean, we have our offensive philosophy, but we're not just going to stick to it and lose and have our head in the sand. The game on Saturday, the conversation was more about, he's a great pitcher. You got to freaking battle him and make some adjustments, whether it be swinging earlier in the count or whether it be fighting more with 2 strikes. And I actually, even though we struck out a lot, I felt like the quality at bats against Wood and definitely Gackle, who's a great pitcher too, were way better. But we never got a chance to catch up. I mean, we just didn't. Yeah. We gave up too many free bases and too many extra base hits.
Yeah, makes sense. I know it's always a sensitive subject because y'all have to be very even on how y'all respond. It felt like sometimes there were some calls from the umpires for both sides. I know their fans weren't very happy as well. In the game of baseball, though, just in generically, how much does that affect your approach at the plate, or I should say the guys' approach at the plate? Because now they start second guessing themselves, or they start kind of maybe reaching out where they wouldn't, or not reaching out when it's right there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any one pitch determines the outcome of a game. However, it can change so much. It's a 2-0 count, and the guy calls the pitch that's 2 balls off the plate. That's a big difference between a 2-1 count and a 3-0 count, a pitcher getting some confidence, a pitcher losing some confidence. So we're not ever going to use umpiring as an excuse for why we've lost the game. And I'm not ever going to, I have relationships with these umpires. Some of them I've had for 20 years. So I know the guys I can get on. I know the guys we can't. And it's hard for me to yell at an umpire when we walk 10 guys, or when we hit 6. That's a losing mentality for me to scream and yell at an umpire. I also have a job to get on them, because I don't want our players getting thrown out of the game. If anybody gets thrown out, it needs to be me. I think also one thing you're seeing in our league, having been in it just 4 years now, is when you go to 16 teams, there's more games. Yeah. When there's more games, you need more umpires. And so across the league, I'm seeing umpires that used to work other conferences that are coming into our league that are solid umpires, not as good as some of the really good ones we have in this league. And more importantly, haven't been in the environments, frankly. And you see a guy like Scott Klein on the third game, who has been in a million SEC games, who handles the environment, who never wavers. He's not perfect, but when you have a guy like that run back behind home plate, he's not going to be spooked. He's not going to call a strike 3 because the crowd is on their feet. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So then there's other umpires who haven't been in that space, and you can see it snowball on them. And that's disappointing. but it's part of the game.
Yeah, makes sense. No, again, I know it's always a tough subject because there is that line where y'all do have these relationships. Y'all get to know these guys really, really well. And then obviously there's the other half where, you have the fans screaming at y'all because it's like, well, what's going on? And they're seeing metrics or I always love the fans that are, down the far left field line or down the far right field line. They're like, oh, that's a strike. Well, sorry, you couldn't tell that if you were standing right behind the plate, much less, that far away. But
Yeah.
It always seems to be a talking point, right? And so I was just curious your thoughts on just that in general. So.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of times too, me as the coach, where I pop off from the dugout and then you go back and you either have the track man or you see the game on replay or something like, yeah, that was a ball, or yeah, that was a strike. I had one of my favorite umpires who doesn't umpire anymore. A guy by the name of Jim Garman. I'm at TCU, and the umpires used to have to come out behind our dugout, third base dugout, to get on the field. And I had him for 15, 20 years up to that point. And he walked up in the dugout before he went to home plate, and he pushed me out of the way, and he stood right where I stand in the dugout. He goes, man, you really can see better from over here. And I said, I've been trying to tell you that for 20 years. All you got to do is look over here and ask me. I'll tell you what to do. So there's some umpires in the league that we have some really good banter back and forth. And you'd like to think that over the course of time, somebody who's treated umpires the right way. I mean, not that I've been perfect, but you'd like to think that you get the respect from them. And I think most of the time we do.
Yeah. No, the other reason was I was watching the end of that Auburn Tennessee game, and Tony V is a fiery character in general. I think you probably know that very firsthand. But typically you get one umpire that you get to kind of chew on, and he made sure he chewed on all of them around the bases. I thought that was unique. I had not seen that before. So
yeah, I mean, if you're going to shoot your shot, give it the best one. So guys, it's frustrating. I mean, there's no question. The games there's so much to play for, and this is a full-time job for us, umpiring in college baseball, although they are very well paid per game. It's not a full-time job. So I think the basketball officials might be full-time. I'm not sure about football. So that's part of it. Like, as a coach, you're like, hey man, like we have to live with this. We lose sleep over this. And I think there are some of those guys who do, and I think some of those guys who just move on. And I'm not telling you one's better than the other. There's probably a healthy side to moving on. But when it's your life and it's like literally you understand, I watched Tony's interview, like and he said it well, when you understand how hard these games are to win and they're so easy to lose, like we saw this weekend. We lost all those games easy.
Yeah.
We didn't put up a fight. Except for the third game a little bit, but most of them are just like the A&M games, like your one pitch dictates everything when you feel that every day.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Coach, I know y'all got a lot of work to get going to. Just for a reminder for the fans, this is the last midweek game against Lamar Cardinals, and then the last homestand for the regular season. Obviously, things look good for regionals, but Florida comes to town Friday through Sunday, so make sure y'all get out to the park. Make sure you support the team. I know that they talk about it in every single post-game interview. The first thing they mention is how good the fans were, and how much they love being in front of them and playing for them. So, just a reminder for everyone to get out to the park. And Coach, want to thank you for your time as always.
Yeah, appreciate that. Our fans have been great all year, and when you go on the road and not just play poorly like we did, but when you just have to experience the other team's fans, you look forward to getting back in front of your fans and having the other team have to experience that. So definitely looking forward to being Dish Falk this week.
Absolutely. We'll hook 'em.